Dallas Cowboys, who are 2-1. That's the first time they've had a record over 500 since Mike McCarthy became their coach. They also lead the NFC East. So far, so good. Week 2 against the Chargers, however, the clock became an issue. You saw it at the end of regulation. McCarthy waiting until the final seconds of the game to call a timeout rather than try to play for better field position for a Greg Zuerlein field goal that ended up being 56 yards long. They made it, so no harm, no foul. Then just the other night, McCarthy holding on to his final 2 timeouts instead of trying for a final scoring drive at the end of the half. They won, but still, here are Jerry Jones and McCarthy on the clock.
Other teams have issues with clock management. That's part of the game.
Yeah.
And so let's cut things some slack and realize that if you do enough plays, we were critical of Garrett when he was here, and don't you think that goes with the territory? That's my point.
Yeah.
I know firsthand Mike's capabilities and know how he approaches it, the logic that he uses, and I'm not a bit concerned about his ability to manage a tight situation.
We decided to take the conservative approach. I was very comfortable with the command that our defense had in that game, and just not even giving them a chance to, maybe put us in a backed up situation.
Okay. A lot to unpack there. Let's start very specifically with the explanation for Mike McCarthy. This time he could see the clock, but he chose, Dominique, to take a conservative approach. Are you good with it?
I'm not. I mean, it's not the end of the world, obviously. However, in that situation, the reason why you do that is because you do trust your defense. And, it's essentially a turnover. You're giving away a possession. Possessions are very valuable in football. It didn't kill them in this game. It didn't hurt them in the game before. But at some point, it's going to hurt them. And just the fact that they won, we talk about this often, process over results. If you do the right thing all the time, it doesn't mean you'll get the right result all the time, but you increase your probability of having success. So I understand at this moment, he was we're up by 20. We're going to blow the team out. No need to pile on. But you practice these things. These are habits that you practice, and you want to make sure that you nail down the process. It's a gift to be able to practice things like this when it doesn't matter nearly as much. There is going to come a time where it's going to matter quite a lot, and we need them to figure this out because we talked about it yesterday. There's only one bye,
right?
And they have a chance of getting it. You drop a game because your coach can't figure out how to put his hands together and form a T, then it's gonna cost you later on.
And to be clear, they won by 20, but in that moment of the game, it was 13 points. The game felt one-sided, but the score was not. So the idea that the game was at hand was clearly not accurate. Kmart, your thoughts?
But here's the thing. The reality is, like you said, they won, which is why Jerry Jones and Mike McCarthy can say, hey, it's all good. The problem, though, is that the excuses or the explanations don't instill much confidence that this won't be a recurring issue going forward.
Exactly.
So, and because we've seen Mike McCarthy in these situations of clock management, you want to see something different. And Jerry Jones saying, there's clock management issues everywhere. Come on. Okay, that makes me feel better.
I wrote the words down. Cut him some slack.
All right.
Comes with the territory. I guess on some level, being the head coach of the Cowboys, it does. Everything is magnified with the Cowboys.
Yeah.
And that is why. Rob Ninkovich, what do you think?
Well, I'd like to apologize for the lawnmower that's outside my door right here. There's literally a guy cutting grass.
Perhaps you were live from a train station this morning.
Yeah. So as I sat down to start the show, I see the lawnmower come down. I go, okay, really? They're going to do this right at 8 o'clock. Great, perfect. So sorry about that if everyone's like, why is there a weed whacker in my ear? But anyway, listen, we're not firing the head coach here. He made a mistake, yes. So my biggest concern is this not coming up in the playoffs, or this situation coming up in maybe a one-possession game where you need that possession. Hopefully, with this mistake, I know it's happened in the past, he learns from the mistake again and he figures it out.
But you see what you did?
So,
You see what you did right there, Rob? You came on, and there were some circumstances that were out of your control. There was a problem, and you said, I'm sorry. It's not your fault, but you said, my bad.
Right.
That's all I want from Mike McCarthy.
Yeah.
2 weeks in a row, he got up there and gave us some nonsense.
Right.
Players aren't allowed to get away with that.
Right.
All I want you to do, Mike, is say, my bad. I messed up. I will address that going forward. Won't happen again.
Ryan Clark said on NFL Live, I believe it was on NFL Live yesterday, I saw it on Instagram, but said that right now Mike McCarthy is the least impressive of the Cowboys coaches.
Yeah.
Which is a heck of a thing to say about the head coach of a football team.
It's absolutely right. I mean, what Dan Quinn is doing with that defense and what Kellen Moore is doing with that offense is quite impressive. What McCarthy is doing with game management and situational football is not. It's simple stuff. Call a timeout, stop the clock, force a punt, get your offense back on the field, add 3 points to your lead.
And he was under the most scrutiny coming into this year. Because you can say what you want about Dan Quinn, but as long as they didn't look inept on defense, it was going to be an improvement. But Mike McCarthy, there's a lot of pressure on him to show that, okay, we've got this under control. This is a playoff team, and we won't mess this up.
Is anyone else amused by the lawnmower going on behind Rob Ninkovich? Sometimes you just have to laugh. What can you do? This is television. In 2021, Rob Ninkovich is sitting in his house in Foxborough with a lawnmower very loudly in the background. This is the best we can do here. All right, moving forward, because after falling 38-3 in their season opener against the Saints, boy, have the Green Bay Packers ever bounced back. They've won 2 straight. And Aaron Rodgers has thrown 6 touchdowns in the wins over the Lions and the 49ers. And once again, in his regular appearance on Pat McAfee shows yesterday, he went right after the haters.
Well, it's a rough night, I guess, for some of those he doesn't care campers. It always is a special place for me to come back to Northern California, but I don't need any extra motivation or inspiration. It was a measuring stick for our football team, I think, to see how we matched up against.
The petty Aaron Rodgers, which we're seeing, Kmart, you continue to love it.
I love it. I love it. Because you know what? He's right. Because the overreactions to week 1 weren't warranted. You can talk about the offseason that they had, but to think that Aaron Rodgers, he's a bad man, as Stephen A would say,
right.
Okay? There's a reason that you don't leave 25 seconds, 35 seconds. The 49ers knew, like, oh, we scored. Yeah, no. Yeah, we probably should have bled the clock a little bit. We should have waited a little bit. Yeah, because they know what Aaron Rodgers is. So the fact that he's saying, hey, I'm glad I get to shut people up again. I love it.
I mean, I enjoy it also. It is just a false narrative. He's created this straw man. Like, nobody was saying that Aaron Rodgers was bad. And I mean, he is great.
Untrue.
He is a special player that the sole reason it felt like they won that game because he has the ability to move the ball like that. So he's good.
Do you know what people like him can do? They find the people who are saying those things. That's whether it's someone on Twitter with 71 followers or whether it's a talk show host somewhere locally that they managed to see on Twitter someplace or wherever it is, they find that. Petty is the new humble among superstars in the NFL. And Rodgers is that. Look at Kevin Durant. These guys find that stuff, and I think it is making a difference, which leads me to ask the question. We talked about him going on a scorched earth tour 2 years ago. Is he going even more so? That performance, those throws he made in that game on Sunday night were as good as anything you've ever seen from him. Is he about to have his best year?
Maybe. I mean, he started off rough with what happened in that first game, but there's no reason to think that he can't continue to do this with these throws that he's making right now. He's incredible, and this team is a Super Bowl contender when he is playing as well. It seems like any team that he's on is a Super Bowl contender when he's playing as well as he is right now.
That throw you just saw, both those two.
Right.
Those two in a row. The throw to Valdez-Scantling in the corner of the end zone, and then that one to Devontae Adams on the final drive are as good a passes as you will ever see a quarterback throw in an NFL game.
There's not a defense for it. If you keep the defensive line off him, there's not a defense that can stop him. That's what it boils down to. He can place it so that even the most perfect coverage can't stop it.
Do I still have Nink, or has his weed been whacked? Do I still have Rob Ninkovich? I don't even know the answer to that question.
I'm here. Yes, I'm here, but in the distance, I hear a weed whacker coming. So if a weed whacker comes back, but listen, you can go ahead and talk bad about Aaron Rodgers. You might end up in a post-game press conference. So for me, I'm just going to say, in Aaron I trust. Here's the weed whacker. This is insane. In Aaron I trust. I'm never going to bet against that guy because he's a bad man. That's for sure.
So let me ask you this, Ninko, if you can hear me. How good are the Packers? After week 1, there were people who were ready to say, well, they're not amongst the NFC's elite. And then they go to San Francisco and they win on the road. When you make a list of the teams, the best teams of the NFC right now, is the name Green Bay Packers on it? Ninko.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. If you have Aaron Rodgers, you're up there. You're up on that list. So are they the best? No, I'm not going to say they're the best. In the division, of course they are. We all know that division's but in the NFC in general, like you got the Rams,
Yeah,
they're really good. You got Tampa, they're really good. You got the Packers, they're up. You got Arizona, you can't forget about them. That division is insane. That's stacked. So I mean, they're up there. They're like probably top 5 in the NFC right now.
I think that's probably right. Given what the Rams have accomplished, I think so far this season, the Rams have to be in front. The Bucs come up behind that, and I'm comfortable with putting the Packers anywhere in there around the Cowboys in that region. They're pretty good.
And here's the thing, because it's Aaron Rodgers, they have to be one of the best teams because quarterbacks are everything. If you have somebody like that, an elite guy, forget just good.
Yeah.
He's one of the top QBs in the league, of course.
Yeah, if the defense just gets a little bit better as the season goes on, it is an unprecedentedly long season. Also, we have such a long way to go before we get to the end. I think if you have Aaron Rodgers, you have to say at minimum you have a chance. All right, speaking of great quarterbacks, as we continue in a moment, 20 years of memories, but Tom Brady says this is not the time to reminisce. GOAT versus GOAT on Sunday. Who needs to win more? We'll talk about it. Plus, Justin Fields is supposed to be the Bears' future, but Chicago can't get past the present. Who's to blame? Who starts?